Magnets, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Today we are thrilled to have a very special guest joining us, Brittany McCormick. She is a South African motivational speaker who is inspiring people worldwide with her incredible story of determination and joy. Brittany, welcome to the show. We're really chuffed to have you.
Hi, how are you guys? What an honor to be here and privilege, and it's a big blessing, and I can't wait to just have a friendly little chat and see how we can impact the audience.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
we're also super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time. And for those of our listeners who don't know Brittany, she defied incredible odds. Brittany, you were born prematurely with cerebral palsy quadriplegia, which is caused by damage to the brain and affects movement and muscle coordination. So Brittany today uses her voice to uplift audiences in 159 countries. When I read that, I was seriously impressed because that is like shy of what? Just over 30 countries of the entire world. So that's incredible. But yeah, today we don't want to talk too much about the challenges, but we want to talk about how you've turned your obstacles into opportunities and how that can inspire our listeners to take steps in their own lives.
Wonderfully said, Alex. In this episode, we will explore how Brittany and how your mindset, Brittany, so we actually can talk to you directly. Your unstoppable mindset helped you overcome anything. How we want to explore fun and practical ways we can all tap into our strengths, and whether it's facing life's hurdles or tracking our money goals, how we actually can overcome these. And why starting small, like you did, can lead to big wins financially, but also personally. Let's dive into this inspiring conversation with you.
We'd like to start with your story because, quite frankly, it is amazing. And like I said, you were born prematurely at 25 weeks. You spent 3 months in intensive care and were diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And that is a lot to handle right from the start. You now speak to audiences worldwide and share your story to uplift everyone else. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your early challenges before you became a public speaker, like your childhood and your teenage years?
Well, I was only diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 1. My grandparents noticed that something was wrong with my hand, and then started all the doctor's appointments and trying to get a diagnosis. It wasn't just about getting through being born prematurely and spending 3 months in hospital, and having my parents try to find a way to cover the bills and to sell and to make other alternatives to find the funding to be able to keep me alive. Basically, my bills were over 100,000 rand at the time. My parents just did everything that they could, but at the age of 1, that's when it all started. The doctor's appointments, trying to figure out what was wrong and how do we get through this and how do we give Brittany the best life possible. But regardless of my diagnosis, my family decided to raise me to be as independent as possible, and that meant having the same responsibilities that my elder sister did when it came to chores, and also, to having the same conversations as what my sister did, and also treating us the same way, but also taking into account my condition and my abilities at that time. Obviously, they've gotten a lot better over time, with a lot more practice. I'm more capable, I have a lot more abilities. But yes, there are some challenges that we still have to overcome.
I can imagine. Yeah, no, that's like, can you explain a little bit more what those challenges are? So, like, cerebral palsy is different for everyone that is suffering under it, but maybe just for our listeners to understand a little bit more what challenges you are facing.
Well, I'm still trying to learn to walk even at the age of 28, and that can be challenging at times, because you know your muscles are not, my muscles are not as developed as most people's muscles. I don't have an arch, a developed arch beneath my feet, so that still has to develop. I crawl on my hands and knees in my home. But when I go out in public, I use my wheelchair, and having to find different ways to climb on things, to climb on chairs, to climb, on the bed, those sort of things. There's different uniques and different unique ways, should I say, and different unique perspectives that you have to take into account. And also because I basically use my one arm because my other side is mostly paralyzed. Things like pouring cool drink and sometimes slicing up my food can be quite challenging, and it's something that you have to accept at a much older age that a normal 28-year-old wouldn't have to accept. It would just be the norm. Also, being able to get in and out of cars easily is quite challenging for me. I have to have assistance when doing this. And I'm also trying to learn a lot about the real world because I was quite protected from a young age. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm also saying that as you explore and as you learn, there's adaptations that need to be made to make it easier for you to understand.
Very powerful. Yeah. Many things that are like that we take for granted are challenges for you. And I can imagine that, it can get frustrating at times. And I just love that you have that mindset of like, okay, accept what is and adapt to it. And do you have maybe any advice for our listeners in terms of what helped you to like achieve that mindset of adaptability?
If I can be honest, I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. So I allow myself to cry. I allow myself to be a little bit angry, but I don't allow myself to let it own me. Okay. So what I do is I take a day or two, feel those emotions, find action, find a way, and move forward. Also, my faith plays a serious part in overcoming challenges because as a believer in Christ, I believe that with God anything is possible, and I believe that with Him by my side, I can overcome all things.
I really love that. Yeah, it's these small steps that lead obviously to confidence that help you actually move forward. Yeah, it's a very powerful reminder that your mind is much stronger than you actually think. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, at Money Magnet, we are talking a lot about finances as well, and saving each month and budgeting. So, how do you think personally that taking small, consistent steps could help someone that feels stuck, maybe with their finance, but in general as well?
To be quite honest, Anna and Alex, I was raised to understand the importance of saving. And, to be quite honest with you, not everybody in the beginning has that mindset. And that's okay. But it's all about understanding that it's a process. How do you unpack that process? How do you work with your own process to the point that you still see growth, but you're not stuck? And to be quite honest with you, it's about acceptance, acknowledge, and move. If you can do those three things, you can be in a better place, not just financially, but mentally and emotionally and in every way of life. Because it's so important that we learn that from an early age. And I'm so blessed that my parents taught me those principles from the get-go.
You're lucky. I think Alex and I, we haven't had that benefit not in that many ways.
No, definitely. But educating your children in terms of money and saving and all of that is, super, super important. And what you have achieved in your life is fantastic. And I mean, how many people can say that I have spoken at international conferences like the Amplify Your Voice or appeared on shows like Good Things Guy? And that is truly fascinating. But on a more lighter side, tell us, because you've appeared at so many public spaces, what was one of your favorite moments so far?
To be quite honest with you, and I know this is a different angle to public speaking, but it was when I was featured in the Joy magazine. That was one of my top moments. And also being on the Good Things Guy podcast was a big moment for me. And it was something to celebrate. But also with that, it's so important to realize that your journey should not be compared to other people. It's yours, and what's big to you isn't big to somebody else. So when somebody's conquered something or overcome something or accomplished something, make sure that you have an excitement in your heart for them.
That
I
is
couldn't
super, super powerful because we recently spoke about, how not to compare yourself to others. And the only way you should ever compare yourself is to your past self, never to
agree.
others, because everyone has a different start in life, everyone walks a different path. So that is very powerful.
And
Yeah,
Anna and Alex, those 159 countries was through a YouTube channel for Amplify Her Voice. That doesn't mean that I've flown across the world. No, that means that I had to find a unique way to make my voice be heard, even if it was just in the beginning, and there was a ton still to learn. That's okay. I want people to understand that just because you read it that way doesn't mean that that's what it is. It could be a unique situation. It could have been a unique progress or way of practicality of doing things. And that's what I'm all about, is find a way, not an excuse. And that's what I did. I found a way, I applied, and the moment I applied to go and share my story, the lady was like, "Oh, just by the way, our conference goes into 159 countries." And I was just like, okay, how do we overcome this? Brand new in the speaking field, no clue what I'm doing. I just popped on with faith and did it. So it's all about understanding that that is your journey and that's okay.
I think I really like the approach of you saying, okay, like you putting yourself out there is one of the first things that you need to
Yes.
learn if you want to actually reach anything. You need to put yourself out there despite being scared or worrying that you might make a fool out of yourself, and then actually following through. So it must have been amazing. So like if I understand that correctly, you basically just applied for the
Yeah.
speaking and then position, and then it's sort of
Yes.
you know,
And then when I
what a
arrived, Anna, they were like, "So, by the way," and I'm like, okay. I was shaking in my knees, and this was online. This was not in person. I didn't have much equipment. Um, I still don't. I use what I've got to the fullest of my ability. And I want people to understand that you can do it even with little. It doesn't matter where you start or how long it takes you to get there. The fact is, you're walking the journey, and that's the thing that matters the most.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love what you said, like start with what you have and then just build it up as you go, instead of, thinking about all the difficulties that might arise and all the things that you don't have to make it perfect in the first time. Because a lot of us, like, yeah, we want it to be perfect right from the beginning, but how often does that actually really happen? Like, never.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is a very good mindset to have. Work with what you have. And like you said, you were nervous, obviously. I mean, you wouldn't be nervous. Do you have any like little tricks or habits that you'd like to share with us that help you as a public speaker? Because a lot of people fear public speaking. Is there something that you use to overcome that stage fright?
To be quite honest, I make sure that I know my work, I know my slides, I know my story, I know my key points. That in itself keeps me calm. But I also know before going to speak that if you forget about it, it's okay. Fill it in with something else in the moment. So don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to be humble and new at what you do instead of trying to be perfect. Because if you try and be perfect, chances are it's not going to go as you planned. I try and make sure that my speech and my presentation is done 48 hours before speaking so that I can rest mentally and emotionally, and wake up refreshed the morning of. And I do my makeup, I do my hair, I get dressed nicely, and I honestly just stay in the moment. I don't think, oh, I need to add this and I need to do this, and no, because by doing that, I then get hyped up, and when I get hyped up, then it just becomes an either flame and fire, or you basically burn out too quickly. And that's what I've learned, whether it's an interview like this one today, or whether it's an article, or whether it's a speech. I treat each opportunity as if I'm going to speak, because it's so important that you are on par, number one, and that you are ready and awake and on fire for whatever comes your way.
I love how you were
Yes.
actually leaning into this, because like we recently spoke in front of a bigger crowd for the first time, and it was daunting to say the least. And we managed, you have to put yourself out there, otherwise your dreams are not going to come true.
Yes.
But I think we learned also our lessons to actually lean more into our own truth, be more present. I think that's what I'm taking, at least from what you've been saying.
Yes. Be present in the moment. Know your work. Don't be scared. Be confident, but be humble. Be honest. Be truthful from the get-go with the client, and also give yourself time to absorb. Give yourself time to learn from each talk, because that's what I've had to do. Online and in person are two very different things. And that's one thing that I've learned, is that it's all great to be comfortable in front of a camera, but when you're in person, it's a completely different ball game, and that's okay. And it's all about taking a deep breath and going, you know what? I'm doing the best I can, and I'll get stronger. There's only one way when you start, and that's up. And it's important. Know your notes. Take the time for yourself before going to speak. Prepare. Preparation, Anna and Alex, is so important.
Yeah.
So important. Preparation, knowing your craft, being calm, also making people feel that they loved and cared for in the talk. So having conversations with people, asking them questions, break the ice, because that makes you feel more comfortable. It's like when you go for an afternoon brunch with your partner, and you don't know these people quite well, but your partner's good friends with them, and they've invited you out to go have something to eat. It's nerve-wracking in the beginning, right? Because you don't know them. But the moment you pour a drink and you shake their hand and you greet them, you start to warm up, you start to get to know them. And then by dessert, you're like, oh, can I have your contact details? I'd love to connect and continue this friendship. Is it not so that that's what happens?
It is true, yes. It's true. Like the more you connect with people, the more you feel at ease. And that's very true. And what you
Yes,
said about like being prepared, being humble, being ready and willing to make mistakes, because these things happen, absolutely, can be applied to so many fields, not just public speaking, but I mean
yes,
also to finances, because there is so much out there, so much information. And finding your way through to until you found what works best for you, how to do certain things like budgeting, for example. Yeah, it all starts with small steps, and it can be quite daunting for someone to do all of that, because all you see is like, oh my gosh, there's this big mess that I have in front of me, and I don't even know where to start. So yeah, I really love the small step mindset to get where you need to go, because it doesn't have to be fast, it just has to be consistent. And one of the other things I wanted to ask you, because yeah, you are young and I'm sure you have many more plans.
yes.
So what is one dream that you're currently working towards? What's your next big thing?
I have many next big things, but I would really love just to continue impacting the lives of others. And I can put a number on something, but What happens when that is over? Then what? Then is my career done? No. So if I continue to say, you know what? I want to continue to impact the lives of others. I want to teach people to overcome. I want to share my story. That means that the world is my oyster, right? But it doesn't mean that I don't have goals in between that big goal, right? So my next goal is I would love to be worldwide known for what I do. I would love to make a change in people's lives, even if it is in the smallest way. I would like to just make a point that because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't. It actually means that you can, and that you have to just do what works for you. And I know that's a bold statement because not every disabled person is fully capable, but they have their way. And if they can have their way to make a life different, then that's amazing.
100% agree with that. And I think it's such a huge inspiration to everyone else, especially people who are not disabled, because people with disabilities face even greater challenges. Often we have the tendency to make excuses. And to see that someone who is facing bigger challenges than you, things like we take for granted, like being able to cut your vegetables or your fruits, for example, that someone like you does not have excuses. That shows everyone else. It's like, okay, listen, if that person doesn't have excuses, what's my excuse? So I really love the work you're doing. And I think, yeah, you are really impacting the way people think.
Alex, to be quite honest, yes, there are some things that I don't have excuses in, but I'm also human, right?
Awesome.
And you say, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And tomorrow comes and you haven't done it. And it's okay to say that I don't have excuses, but sometimes as people, we do. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
And it's about owning up and saying, okay, I've been making a lot of excuses lately. Maybe I need to change that. Or maybe there's just something that I need to get through right now. And then once that's over, I can change. I can decide, do I want to continue to make excuses, or do I want to get out of it and go, I'll find the way. I'll make the time and I will make the choice.
I also think it's often about perspective. You personally might not perceive the challenges you have as so abnormal because, of course, they're psychologically, you're used to them. These are your challenges. For us, we are not facing this challenge. It's very, very different. Then it's a perspective, it's a mind shift change that is happening. You can see others overcoming things, and then in that moment, you are motivated to move forward. Is that something that you use as well for you personally when you've been just mentioning you are facing sometimes this, oh no, I don't want to do it. Like, what do you do basically in those moments?
To be quite honest, Anna, yes. You look at someone else's life and you go, what am I moaning about? But then the truth could also lie as how far have I actually come? When you look at somebody else's life, it's not, for me at least, it's not, oh, well, they're worse off than me. What am I complaining about? It's how far have I come? How far have I conquered? How far have I accomplished? That in itself should push you. And to be honest, I've been there where I went to do a talk for a school in Cape Town and then also raise funds for them. And I saw all these kids on feeding tubes and machines, and some of them were nonverbal, some of them were in nappies. And in that, I looked at it and I was like, well, number one, why am I complaining? Number two, how far have I actually come? And sometimes we watch a movie and we be inspired by that, and that just inspires us to move forward. But sometimes we need to be open and honest and say to ourselves, has this been a moment where I've been stuck, or do I completely need to change my mindset, my emotions, and my perspective to make a change? Because sometimes, like I said, we're stuck in moments. I've been there where I'm stuck in a moment. I'm going through so much, or I'm doing so much that I neglect that one thing. And sometimes it's about just bringing something back into alignment, and that's okay.
That is beautiful. Like you said that your parents raised you to be as independent as possible in terms of life, in terms of finances, and they never treated you differently. So I assume that your parents have a huge impact on your life.
Yes.
How have others, like in your childhood, other family, friends, school, etc., have they treated you differently? Have they treated you the same as everyone else? And what kind of impact had that on you?
To be quite honest with you, school wasn't my favorite. I didn't like school very much. She says that quietly. Um, I I was in and out of special needs school. Well, it's the truth, guys. Come on, who loves school? Not many
I
people.
also had a lot of struggle in school.
School is hard for many people.
I was in special needs school for many years. I was in and out of special needs school, and I just was struggling, and I wasn't striving the way that we thought I was, and so I was then put into homeschooling, and it just wasn't working at all. I then went, and then my parents kind of hit a roadblock because they weren't sure about my future and what it was going to look like. And so they sat down with a university lecturer, and her advice was to get me into basic IT. When I say basic IT, it was to learn how to work a computer and to be computer literate. And I was good at it. But here comes the big but. That wasn't my passion. I went on to study my absolute passion, which is what I'm doing today. And it's been a slow process, but it's been a beautiful, blessed, unique, awesome, amazing journey. And I cannot wait to continue walking it.
So what made you realize? I mean, obviously, we all know that, okay, what I'm doing is not my passion. We can all feel that within us. But like, what was that moment that made you realize, okay, listen, this is actually my passion. This is what I want to do.
Well, when I was actually a teenager, there is this guy by the name of Nick Vujicic. No arms, no legs. And we were walking in the Christian bookshop, and I saw this DVD, and I asked my parents, can I buy it? I was about 14, 15, and I watched this DVD, and I just cried like a baby for hours. I cried, and I just said to God, I want this life. I want to be able to speak and share my story and make a change. And from that day forward, I knew this was something I wanted to pursue. And not only that, but everyone I always spent time with were highly encouraged and inspired by me. So I used that. And I went and I actually studied motivational speaking, keynote speaking, public speaking.
So just for our listeners that haven't heard about this person that you're speaking about, I presume he's also a motivational speaker.
He's actually an evangelist. He ministers all over the world. He does motivational talks all over the world in many, many schools, in many, many prisons. He is unbelievable. He's married with children, and he has his own books. He's absolutely awesome. I love his work, and also he's really amazing, and he's really funny too. I actually met him in person, which was awesome. That was
Amazing.
just incredible.
You met your hero. That's incredible.
Yeah, and then I said to him, I want to be like you. Not often that you get to do that. I cried so much from being overwhelmed that I actually fell out my wheelchair. But we got through it. I didn't even get a chance to ask my question, but I sent him an email and he replied. So I still got my question answered.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. May I ask what you asked?
I think it was something of, how did you get to this point? How did you overcome difficulties? I wasn't as wise as what I am now. I mean, I was 18 years old, still trying to figure things out, still trying to overcome certain battles. And, I think reading his book really did help me and help me understand my own disability, even though he wasn't talking about my disability. He helped me understand from a different perspective. And I think I said hello, and then that was it. But I got to take a photo. I even cried on his shoulder. um, and I really had to kind of grasp and get myself back to normal. I don't idolize him at all, but he is a huge inspiration. And one of my biggest goals is to work with him on stage as well, in keynote speaking and in motivational speaking, is to share a stage together, and to also share a stage with some significant public speakers. That would be also my number one goal as well.
It's a big
That
goal
is
that we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
There it is. Alex and I, we're big supporters of very big goals. So that's why it's always exciting us to hear what really motivates and keeps you alive.
Brittany, thank you so, so much for joining us today. You have been very inspirational and you shared a lot of your wisdom. And it's not usual for someone your age to have that much wisdom. I think you are definitely a big inspiration to all of us. And, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything you'd love to share with the Money Magnet community?
Don't give up. And I know a lot of people say don't give up, don't do this. But I mean this. I mean, when it's really hard, find that last bit, that tip of motivation just to push forward a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Find that strength within yourself. Don't allow others' opinions of you to hold you back. Rather push forward, trust yourself, trust your own process, and find a way, not an excuse.
Amazing words, Brittany. I really, really love to hear it. As I think it's just generally when you are no longer looking at everyone else, but looking at yourself as the person that you need to overcome or challenge, then you learn you grow in a different way. So I really enjoy hearing you say that. Of course, we at Money Magnet are trying to support women to actually find their way into financial independence. For us, that's very important because we actually know that if you are financially independent, you have your own voice. It's been amazing to see how you're actually supporting that from your mindset. So thank you so much. It's incredible to hear that. Yeah,
But Anna, to be quite honest with you, it's a choice.
it is.
You can help and you can advise, but unless they want to do it, they're not going to do it. And sometimes we feel frustrated because we try and advise people, we try and help people, but you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
That is very
Actually, really
true.
is.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it always comes down to our life is our responsibility and our choices. And we only experience what we allow to happen to us. I hope that our listeners and many, many women out there come to a point and realize, like, listen, this is what I want, or I had enough of what I have at the moment, and things need to change. And yeah, we all need that moment of
But
realization in our lives.
it sometimes takes rock bottom.
Often, actually.
Rock bottom. Because when you're at rock bottom, where else do you go? You can't go any lower than rock bottom. So
That
the only
is
way
very
to go
true.
is straight up. And it's about saying to yourself, you know what? I've got this. What can I do with it to get to where I want to go? And that's what I've done. That's what I've taught myself. That's what I've just learned to do over time is, Brittany, use what you've got to get to where you want to go. And when you get to that point and it's not enough, you can reevaluate, relook, and grow further. I've still got a lot to learn, ladies. I've got a ton to learn. I'm new in the public speaking industry. I might say the wrong things, I might say the right things, but it's all about learning and growing so that you can build your own character, so you can build your own chapter, so you can be the best you that you can be.
Brittany, we're getting to the close, but I really, really would love to hear, how do you deal with your personal finances? Are you supporting yourself? How do you manage this?
I'm a huge believer in saving. I have faith with all my money, that God will help me make the right decision in all that I purchase. It doesn't matter if it's a chocolate or a piece of clothing or doesn't matter what it is. I always have faith in giving to other people as well, being able to bless other people where you can, how you can, and also listening to other people. If they've got advice for you, listen and apply it to how it works for you. So my whole life, my parents have given me financial advice on what to do and how to save money. And that's so important because the foundation for me started from home and it still continues that way. And that's okay, right? To have your own family give you advice and love and teach you what's right and wrong, right? I know that not everybody has that, but if you have the opportunity to inspire somebody to do that, then do it in love.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. And yeah, these were beautiful closing words. Money Magnets, you've just heard the incredible story and lots of wisdom from Brittany McCormick. Like we said, you are a public speaker, and we will most definitely link all your social media, etc., into the description below, so people can also check you out, follow you, and hopefully book you for one of your inspirational talks.
I look forward to hearing from your audience, or even if it's just to reach out and mention how it inspired them for what they're going through. That's also okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Brittany. We also want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. I'd like to remind you that every challenge is a chance to grow financially, but also personally. And of course, Brittany, we hope to actually see you in person at some point. We hope to meet you very soon. Yeah.
And thank you to your beautiful audience for taking the time to listen. Thank you to the most beautiful ladies for having me on the show. Thank you for taking the time. And thank you just for giving me the opportunity to share my voice on your platform.
Thank you so much.